it's important that women get recognised for all their hard work. Back when I was a kid, we lived in the suburbs, so didn't really have the luxury to walk out the backyard and pat horses or...
Welcome everyone to episode 155 of the CEN Nutrition Podcast. You're with your host Bryan today, and on today's podcast I have a very special guest, and it is one of our valued CEN clients, but she's just been named the 2026 Tasmanian and South Australian Racing Woman of the Year. It is Jessica Tzaferis, and this was at the Magic Millions Racing Women Achievement Awards on the Gold Coast, part of the Australian thoroughbred industry, and it showcased her contribution to the sport, reflecting leadership, impact, and the role she plays within the racing community, and it's a massive achievement. Congratulations, and how are you, Jess?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for that. It was a huge thrill, a big initiative by Magic Millions and TAB to be able to sponsor and do what they do for that, and I guess just to be acknowledged in a room full of such incredible women doing such amazing things was really, really special.
Yeah, it was so fantastic to see, and the actual presentation, it was made by someone from the royal family, Zara Tindall.
Yeah, I believe it's the Queen's granddaughter, so that was extra special.
Yeah, that would have been a real big thrill, and I understand it's all sort of set up with a panel of industry leaders who chose the award, including
Gay Waterhouse. So for them to, look at my profile and think I was a deserved winner was a pretty special. Leah Goodrick from Tasmania, who I was up against, is incredibly deserving. So it's important that women get recognised for all their hard work. I know so many women that were deserving to be recognised or even a finalist for that award that I was up against. I think, knowing that award is around, I'll be sure to make sure I nominate a few women for next year.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And your journey with us we'll touch on later on in this podcast, but your journey in racing, I'd love to let the listeners know how you got into racing and your experience with horses even at a young age.
I started probably doing riding lessons once a week. Back when I was a kid, we lived in the suburbs, so didn't really have the luxury to walk out the backyard and pat horses or have a go at riding them, but I was very lucky. I had supportive parents that were keen to give me a crack at riding. My mum loved horses, so she was keen to get me out there and start some riding lessons, and through there it just continuously developed. Had my own horses, adjusted, competed, did a lot of eventing. I was very lucky to be under the wing of Christopher Height, who's a very good eventer. He taught me everything I know, certainly through the philosophies and training principles of Andrew McLean and AEBC, which I think is probably what's made me as a rider and a horsewoman. So I have a lot of credit and thanks to Chris for that, because I wouldn't be the rider I am today without that. But through that, I met Mark Burnell, who's heavily in the racing industry, an equine dentist, and he helped me get into racing. I've worked with lots of different stables, very lucky to have worked with big stables, including Mick Price, Mick Kent, Christopher Marr, Dan Marr, Terry and Karina O'Sullivan, and I've chopped and changed around a lot, moved around for opportunities, certainly while I was an apprentice, to get the best opportunities I can, and I've learnt a lot along the way, and it's landed me in South Australia. I finished my apprenticeship with Michael Hickmott, who was a massive influence in my career as a jockey, still is. And now I'm bridging into training, which is probably something I've always wanted to do, and I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah, and you currently hold a dual licence?
Yes, dual licence. So I'm training and I can ride my own horses along with other stables as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop there, because you and your partner James also have a farm.
Yeah, we're lucky enough to acquire 20 acres in White Hill, so about just under 10 minutes outside of Murray Bridge, so a really close race course, and we've been slowly building this property up, but it's probably what's allowed me to take that step into training, because I can house my own horses on our property without having to worry about the constraints of leasing out a barn and those expenses on top of that.
Yeah, that sounds like a great setup. And over the years in your career, have you seen how females have progressed in an industry that was mostly dominated by males early on?
Yeah, absolutely. As an apprentice, when I had my intake at Racing Victoria, we made headlines because we were the first time there was more female apprentices than males coming through the intake. And I guess through that, like the numbers of women participating in the sport have increased. The opportunities they're getting have increased. Obviously, you've got trailblazers like Michelle Payne, Linda Meach, Jamie Mallam and Claire Lindop that have done huge things for women in racing. And I guess it inspires the next generation to have a crack because they're seeing women on a pedestal doing really well and riding really well. And I guess women are realising it's more achievable. And I think the racing industry is very rewarding. Like if you work hard, you certainly get rewarded for it. Obviously, there's a lot of ups and downs in racing, but I think the thrill is very captivating.
Yeah, 100%. You got to be very tenacious because, the ups and downs can be huge. And even in our own backyard here in Queensland, Angela Jones took out the Jockey Premiership, beating all the males last season. So great to see the success that women are having as jockeys and also, throughout the racing industry. Absolutely.
I think women naturally have a different approach to horses and how they behave around them. So I think, different touch works for different horses, and I think a lot of people are realising that, and women getting more opportunities in whatever part of racing they're choosing to be, whether it be training, riding, or even working with them on the ground. They're certainly doing really, really well.
Yeah, and it's got really huge, and I think one of the drivers is Katie Page Harvey, who is the co-owner of Magic Millions with Jerry. It was really evident a few years back that when she introduced even that Racing in Women program with the bonuses for all female-owned horses, but not leaving any stone unturned, she's gone to another level with these awards.
Oh, absolutely. You see those women-only syndicates being super popular now and that being rewarded with those bonuses in races. It's good to see. It's bringing more women to the races, and there's so much a part of racing that women can enjoy, whether it's ownership, fashions, or just having fun with friends. It's really good to see these initiatives being put in place.
Yeah, and looking back, Jess, on your time, is there any lessons that were earned the hard way and shaped the way you are today and how you operate?
Oh, absolutely. I think the story of my entire career, whether it be in racing or working with performance horses, I've always learnt the hard way. I remember as a kid when I was competing, I was going to win my first competition and I did something silly like go into the dressage arena or the dressage test with a dressage whip by accident, and I got eliminated on the spot. Like, I've always typically learnt things the hard way, but I certainly don't regret it. Once you make a mistake, you learn from it, and I feel like you learn quicker making mistakes. I've always had really good people around me, so I've been able to learn from the right people. But yeah, I think a lot of it has been learning the hard way. I've had a lot of injuries, but I think getting back up and having a crack is the most important part.
Yeah, I think they say if you don't make mistakes, you're not learning fast enough or you're not learning anything. So totally agree with that. And what challenges still exist that you find in the industry?
I wouldn't really. I mean, everyone's facing the same challenges, getting opportunities, getting support, taking the risk to spend a little bit more to buy the right horses, and then, backing yourself to sell the shares in those horses. But I think, if you're willing to take a calculated risk and do the best you can, I think those challenges and risks are worth taking.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of resilience in the industry and have a good support and family around you that really want to back you as well.
Absolutely. I certainly wouldn't be able to successfully do what I'm doing at the moment if I didn't have my husband James behind me. He's very well respected in the industry. He's got a lot of great contacts and friends, and that certainly helped pave and grow our business to where it is today.
I totally second that about your husband James. He's such a great guy, is very well respected in the industry and has great knowledge. You guys are amazing together, and that leads me to my next question. How did you come across CEN originally?
I think a lot of it was floating around on social media. I love to learn as much as I can, especially about nutrition. I still feel like there's so much to learn, and it's almost like a bottomless pit. But I put my old performance horses on CEN a fair few years ago, and I was quite impressed with how well they turned around and responded to the feed. And I think off the back of that, that made me want to research it a lot more. And it's quite impressive how good the customer service is with CEN and even with yourself. I was basically a nobody when I first started feeding the product, and you guys weren't hesitant at all to respond to me and give me all the advice and answer all the questions I've had. And it's been really good to be involved with and just see how well, again, the horses respond to the feed. And I think my favourite part of the feed itself is the low feed rate. You know, I'm not having to feed huge bulk feeds to get the same results you get with a smaller feed of CEN.
Yeah, it's definitely our mantra at CEN, and over the years, the development of the products and focusing around how the research is around the physiology of the horse and what they really need for their energy systems to be more so quality over quantity and what their body naturally thrives on, which is that high fiber, low sugar, low starch diet. But then when you look at a racehorse, it's a more even amount of balance between obviously the fiber, protein, sugar, starches, and not overdoing it, because the latest research that is coming out is that the horse does definitely thrive with a hindgut environment, that it's in its optimal condition. And when we look at that, Jess, we've been at that forefront, and we can't thank you enough for backing us back when it wasn't a common thing.
Yeah, and like I said, I can't stress enough how good and happy my horses are. I've got a horse called Royal Fox that's racing on the weekend, and I even with him, I've noticed his second big prep with us, how he's just continuously improved and muscled up and bulked up, and he is an older gelding. And I thought off the back of last prep there probably wasn't a lot more improvement in him, but even now this prep, I'm very happy and surprised to see how well he's doing. And that's still off a feed that I wouldn't call a huge feed that I'm used to seeing in racing stables, and he's just a happy, healthy horse.
Yeah, we're very pleased, Peter and I, at the development of the racing industry in terms of putting more forage, so that hay amount first, because that's what the horse thrives on. And a lot of the bigger racing stables are moving to this way of feeding. But in terms of looking at a horse as an individual, we're just trying to unlock their natural ability, all that genetic potential in their energy and also the ability on the track. We want to give them every chance while they have their career in racing, but also give them every chance off the track and their post-career retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Royal Fox, again, is another perfect example of that. He's getting towards the twilight end of his racing career, and I even think off the back of his last run, whenever that will be, you could put him in a performance stable a week later and he wouldn't be over the top on cooked up on grain and being highly strung. I think he'd transition quite perfectly into a performance stable straight away, and I think that's just a credit to the feed that he's on and how good it is.
Yeah, you touched on that grain or cooked up on grain. What it's doing is making that hindgut more acidic if there is an overload of grain because the horse can't digest enough in the small intestine. And it's just touching on that physiology standpoint of how a horse produces energy. And for our first-time listeners, you can deep dive our previous podcast to understand that even further. But Jess, how different is it compared to what you have seen in the past?
So different, it's hard to even explain. Again, like starting a racing stable and feeding completely different how you see most stables traditionally feed was a little bit daunting at first, but when you see how well it works with the horses and how well they're responding on it, you know, I certainly don't look back. I think in terms of ratios for the individual horse, there's still tweaking to be done for me, but as a whole, I think you can't compare how well these horses are, and even temperament. Like I think there's only maybe one or two horses in my stable that I would call difficult, and that's just because they're on the strong side. They're all very well mannered mentally, and I think that a lot of that comes down to not only how they're educated, but certainly how they're fed as well.
Yeah, I think when we look at how one of what the prevalent things in racing is ulcers in horses, and looking at roughage or your hay, restricting that is not helping that. So looking at hay as your natural ulcer preventative first before reaching for those medications is one of the key things with our program, and being used in leading stables is so great to see because the horse is going to benefit at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, the most important thing with horses is doing it right from the beginning, whether it be how they're broken in or trained, how they're ridden, and even how they're fed. If they're fed right from the start, I think they're going to reward you. And again, I know I've banged on about Royal Fox, but his second prep on this feed, he's probably never been more consistent, and it's just a testament to the product and how well they get horses going.
Yeah, and you mentioned before you've got a farm and you're doing a bit of breeding as well?
Yeah, we probably don't have the best strike rate with breeding at the moment in terms of mares flipping or having bad luck with, strike rate of foals being born live, but we're a glutton for punishment, James and I, and we absolutely love it. We've got 2 on the ground that we've bred, and we've got 3 mares in foal, which we're really excited about. One of the fillies we bred is having her first trial on Monday, so really excited about that. But I think it's just a fun part to dabble in. It's certainly not cheap. Again, with having a bit of land ourselves, we have that luxury to have a crack, and we always dream about breeding a champion, and hopefully one day that comes true.
Yeah, definitely. And breeding can be a tough game and equally really rewarding. And with our CEN feed program, it's used in a lot of studs Australia-wide, and it's just about supporting that broodmare and then obviously the eventual foal, because in a previous podcast we've covered that first 28 days of the foal's life is really crucial for its performance during its career as a racehorse, and there is evidence now that was recently published on that. So that could be a good deep dive for our new listeners as well. But overall, I would just like to give you a massive congratulations, Jess, for your achievements and this award that you received. When you look at the award now, what does that actually represent to you?
I just think it's a real tip of the hat to, I guess, resilience and working hard. Everything I've done in the industry, I've worked really hard for. I've made a lot of sacrifices, same with James. And to be, I guess, recognised in a way where it's seen to be successful is pretty special. I think if you work hard, you're going to be rewarded, and to be acknowledged and rewarded for what I've done so far is huge, and we can only hope that continues. And
when you were growing up with horses, did you think you were going to end up in the thoroughbred racing industry?
Absolutely not. Me getting into racing was a way to support my mum in terms of paying for my own horses, because I had a huge passion for eventing at the time, and I was working under Chris Hite, and obviously he was an inspiration to me with how well he does and how good a rider he was. So I sort of really thought that was the path I was heading down. But being successful in the performance industry, especially eventing, is quite difficult. It's a lot of years and work and education that goes into one horse, and you need the right horse to do that. You need the right time, and it's very, very expensive, as a lot of people know. I think me getting into racing and how much I fell in love with it straight away, it just eventually phased out my performance horses, and I sort of focused on racing. And Mick Price really encouraged me to have a crack at being an apprentice, and once I got into the program, the rest is history. What would your advice be for any younger equestrians looking into the racing industry? Just have a crack, work hard, be open, and take any opportunity you can. I wouldn't class myself as a superstar. I worked really hard. I did really well as an apprentice, even into my senior career. But I think I'm a good example of someone that's willing to have a crack and work hard and get good results, and be willing to make sacrifices. I think if you're willing to have a crack, the industry will certainly reward you. Totally agree, Jess. When you work hard, you're consistent and you apply yourself, the results will come. And
it's not always an easy path. There's so many ups and downs, and I really appreciate you opening up and sharing that insight. So I reckon we could wrap this podcast up. Is there any final words you'd like to say?
I just
think we'd
love to thank
finish off on
you guys for all the support. You've always been willing to pick up the phone and answer me when I've had questions, especially with blood results and everything, with your background of blood scientists, and just knowing that there's support there behind CEN whenever you have a question to help me out has been really influential for what I'm doing with my horses. And it's just really good to be involved with a community that really values the horse as an athlete, their well-being and their health. And I think the team's doing a great job in getting horses to where they are and how healthy and performing really well. So it's just really good to be a part of CEN Nutrition.
Thanks so much, Jess. We can't thank you enough, and also James, for your continued support throughout the years of our feeding mantra. And what we pride ourselves on here at CEN is we have a reason for each ingredient to go into your horse, to fuel them, to support their body systems. And if anyone does want to contact us and just have a chat about even their feed, feel free. We've got our office number. We're pretty rare these days. There's no AI answering that. It's either Peter or myself or the team. And we do free diet consults, and also really we are woven into the landscape of all horse industries, most notably in the endurance space. But there's a lot of stables in the thoroughbred industry that use our products, and we can't be happier to make an impact on the thoroughbred horse's life and their health. And yeah, I think, Jess, thanks so much for your time today. You just got to be really commended on this achievement. It is a fantastic showcase of your impact in the racing community and your role you play, and we wish you all the best for everything that comes for you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be involved.
Thanks, Jess.